Exclusive contract from Feilu Novel Network Novel. Practical teaching. The strength of Biqigu is supreme classroom. Youth is a lie, a sin. People who sing praises of their youth constantly deceive themselves and their surroundings, always facing their surroundings with a positive attitude. Even some fatal failures can be called symbols of youth and become a memorable past. Having participated in criminal activities such as pickpocketing and rioting can be referred to as having a strong-willed spirit. If you fail the exam, just say that school is not just a place to learn. In the face of their youth, no matter what general understanding or social norms are, they can be distorted. For them, whether lies, secrets, criminal records, or failures are just seasonings of youth. And they will find special points in their own bad deeds and failures. One's own failures are all part of youth, while recognizing the failures of others is not youth, but only a complete failure. In summary, conversely speaking, those who do not praise youth are the true source of justice. My conclusion is: charge now and explode. ________________ PS, qcqs in the harem, the male lead is not very strong. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 001. Kill the competition directly. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 001. Kill the competition directly. April. Cherry blossoms are falling. Driving towards a highly developed bus. Biqigu Hachiman sat in the middle single seat, gazing out the window at the dead fish with tears streaming down his eyes. This is all because starting from today, in these 3 years, he will not see his lovely sister Kamachi anymore. Highly developed. Sakurajima is one of the top prestigious universities with a national background. School atmosphere is free and all fees are waived. After graduation, one can still have the opportunity to freely choose a career. Whether it's celebrities, national athletes, or politicians, they can all choose freely. The only drawback. Probably only this is a fully enclosed school. Unless for special reasons, even family members cannot be contacted. But the corresponding schools are equipped with various entertainment facilities, such as cinemas, karaoke, gyms, and so on. But this is the only drawback. For Biqigu Hachiman, who deeply loves his sister, it is absolutely intolerable. Unfortunately, I received a highly educated admission letter. As a man whose family status is inferior to that of a cat, he has no choice at all. Under the threat of parents refusing to pay high school tuition fees. In order to continue working until college graduation and fulfill the dream of being the head of the family. I can only reluctantly accept the fact that I have been highly educated through enrollment. The entrance exam was clearly a blank paper. Is there a ghost in this school? Biqigu feels a bit like crying. Even during the interview, he said a lot. If successful like that, parents may change their attention right. Such a perfect 0-point strategy has inexplicably failed. At this moment, the bus stops at the station. An old lady trembled as she stepped onto the bus and stopped next to him, her hands propped up like withered wood, gripping the handrail with an unsteady look. And the people inside the bus. Seems like I haven't seen it, with a nonchalant appearance. Biqigu Shinyu Tianwai waited for half a day. The thought of not being able to see my sister for 3 years gives me an impulse to cry. But once you cry, you may be seen as a fool by others. I feel ashamed and want to die. Absolutely not. Think of this. Biqigu stood up directly and walked towards the empty seat in the last row, intending to have a good cry for his sister. Thank you. The old lady was just about to speak. I just watched the young man in front of me walk silently to the back of the car and sit down, without any intention of conversation. The world is so dangerous. What if Kamachi is deceived by that scumbag? Kamachi. Biqigu let out a weak cry, as if he had accidentally killed the game. Highly developed. Located on an artificial island. The entire school area is equivalent to a small town. The surrounding streets are full of flowers and beautiful surroundings, with modern shops scattered on both sides. As a place about to live for 3 years, it is simply impeccable. Unfortunately, it is completely incomparable to Chiba Prefecture. Since we want to establish a closed school, we should learn more from Chiba Prefecture, and it's best to directly replicate one. And I only saw a Lamian noodles shop. Erlang Lamian noodles. You should know that Lamian noodles is the soul of Sakurajima men, and schools without Lamian noodles have no soul. More importantly, this is an abnormal amount of monitoring. As a professional Lone Ranger, Biqigu is extremely sensitive to vision and soon felt dozens of lines of sight. I'm afraid I can't even sneak into this school at dusk. If you come across Anya, be careful. It would be terrible if she sees the dark history. Biqigu roast in his heart, but didn't pay much attention to it. Anyway, he has always been the same person, and he will probably be the same in the future. No matter what the purpose of these monitors is, it has nothing to do with him. Compared to monitors, he is more concerned about whether there is a hidden Lamian noodles shop in this place called Beach Shopping Center. However, time is limited. It is impossible to find deliberately hidden stores solely by observation. Following the admission guide, Biqigu arrived at the teaching building. The school is divided into 3 grades. Each grade is divided into 4 classes. A, B, C, and D. According to instructions, new students need to first go to the class to place their backpacks, wait for the class leader to explain the rules, and then go to the gymnasium for the entrance ceremony. Although I am somewhat concerned about the 2 words, rules, Biqigu still hasn't taken it to heart. Anyway, no matter what the rules are, a person who does not fight or engage in physical altercations ultimately cannot be affected. With some unease and anticipation of entering an unfamiliar environment, Biqigu arrived at the door of the classroom with the one.B sign hanging. Although he is somewhat reluctant to part with the small town, he actually looks forward to living alone in high school. Perhaps one can also enjoy a beautiful period of youth like the protagonist in a manga. Class B for 1 year. As soon as I walked into the classroom, Biqigu felt an unusual atmosphere. Most people gathered around a girl with long pink hair. The girl's fan has long hair and waist length, with a cheerful smile on her pretty face. She occasionally brings topics to those around her and never shows anyone. The huge object on my chest was about to emerge, as if my wine-red school uniform could collapse at any moment. Under my plump willow waist, there were a pair of plump long legs. Instantly snatched away Biqigu's gaze, and from time to time, one could hear the exclamation of, "Ichinos is really amazing." However, what's even more amazing is that even though school has just started, the other party has become the center of the class. Although I wanted to join, I couldn't help but reminisce about my junior high school days. Whenever he talks about animation with his otaku boyfriend, everyone will fall into a blatant silence. Let's talk about it when there are few people waiting. Hesitate repeatedly. Biqigu decided to find his own seat first, and his position was in the middle of the first column near the corridor. A secure location for pedestrians. Just as soon as he was reborn, he met the gaze of a young girl. The girl was tied in a pair of ponytails, with a beautiful appearance and a slender figure. Her peach blossom eyes seemed to be constantly shining. Speaking. The appearance of this school is really high, and everyone is more beautiful than their junior high school classmates. And it seems like she's still sitting at the same table, with the name of Himaya Snow written on the nameplate on the table. Just. His expression was somewhat hesitant. This gaze is more familiar than Chigu's. Human observation is one of his 108 skills. At the beginning of junior high school, a girl exchanged contact information with him with the same gaze, and then he eagerly texted him every day. I only found out afterwards. The other party only exchanged contact information because they accidentally caught their eye and avoided embarrassment. There are also rumors such as, Biqigu texting me every day, disgusting, annoying to the death. Although thanking the other party for their kindness, he doesn't need this kind of sympathy. In thought. Biqigu clenched his fist slightly, nodded indifferently, and walked past her. The other person also nodded slightly and stopped paying attention. As expected. A professional Lone Ranger will not fall twice in the same pit. Biqigu crawled on the table feeling proud, but his dead fish eyes couldn't help but look at the red dot operating on the corner monitor. Even in a crowd, there will be no awkwardness. In terms of the ability to waste time, he is the best in the world, ha ha ha. What useless skill is it? Biqigu couldn't help but turn his head and look at the wall with his back to the somewhat noisy laughter. What am I really looking forward to? Nausea. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 002. Unreliable Teachers. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. There is not much time left for students to communicate. Not long after, I heard the voice of Ichinos saying, "It's almost time, everyone, let's leave a good impression on the teacher together." Everyone in Class B responded and returned to their seats. At this point, only through Biqigu can we have the opportunity to observe the people around us. At the front table was a boy with sharp eyes, and the name of Ruji Kenzaki was written on the nameplate. He just glanced at him and then withdrew his gaze. It's really outrageous. Behind her is a girl named by Bo Qianshuan with white, ear-length short hair that gives people a sense of weakness. I also didn't communicate with him, just accidentally aligning my gaze and quickly distancing myself from convenience. Even more outrageous. Although his experience in junior high school prepared him mentally, it was inevitable that he felt a little sad. If it weren't for his strong inner strength, he would have been foolish long ago. In less than a moment. Accompanied by the sound of footsteps, a woman wearing a pink T-shirt walked into the classroom. Although he looks very beautiful, Biqigu is not in the mood to pay attention to these things at the moment. His youth has just ended. Unable to join a certain group at the beginning of the school year, it will only become more difficult afterwards. Well. Anyway, he didn't want to blend in with these people. Everyone return to your seats, otherwise, the teacher won't be polite. The female teacher walked up to the podium, her hands inserted into her waist, pretending to be angry. Although speaking impolitely, there was a hint of playfulness in his tone, making him appear to be a very articulate teacher. Biqigu couldn't help but straighten his spine. After all, it's always right to leave a good impression on the teacher on the first day of school, and it's more convenient to take leave in the future. The female teacher picked up the chalk, nodded with one foot, and lifted the other slightly, skillfully writing down the name. Zhihui from the Star Palace. Although the movements are cute, it feels a bit unreliable. Zhihui from the Star Palace is my name. Everyone should remember it well. If you forget it, the teacher will be sad. Ah! A startled sound rang out. It has been confirmed that this teacher is indeed somewhat unreliable. Don't worry, teacher. How could we forget such a beautiful teacher? That's great. What's the name of this student? Teacher, my name is Shibata-sa. Very good, it's the first time the teacher has seen such a lovely student, but it's a bit wrong. It should be cute. The teacher prefers others to say I'm cute. Oh. Really? Hello. Is it really fake? Surprisingly, we just started chatting like this. Biqigu is somewhat speechless. Isn't it about telling the rules? Since there are rules, please follow them carefully, bastard. But he dare not say anything more. The straight back slowly bowed down again. Since they like to chat, let's talk. Anyway, just listen slowly. Starry Palace Ji Hui quickly merged with Ichinos and others without any signs of stopping. Half a sound, finally someone couldn't help it anymore. Teacher. Ruji Kenzaki stood up at the front desk and said in a deep voice, "The admission guide seems to say that the class guide will be responsible for explaining the rules. Although the school fees are all free, the admission guide does not include food and living. How will the school handle this part?" Well done. Directly raising specific questions does not give this unreliable teacher the opportunity to cross the topic. What a hero. Biqigu secretly made up his mind to call him Hiro Shinzaki from today on. However, he seemed to underestimate the teacher a bit. "You can't do this, Kawasaki." Shingong Jirui crossed her waist with one hand and shook her jade finger, saying in a rustling voice, "Impatience is a taboo for popular men. If you want to have a girlfriend, you must be mature and steady. At least the teacher prefers mature and steady men, understand? No. Don't get it. Who really wants to know your criteria for choosing a partner? Hurry up and tell me the rules." Biqigu and Kenzaki at the front table twitched their lips at the same time, completely unsure of how to deal with such a teacher. Teacher of the Star Palace. At this moment, Ichinos stood up and turned around with a smile, saying, "There is still an hour left until the enrollment ceremony. If this continues, we may not be able to finish our conversation in a short time. If there is a chance, how about next time? Really, there's nothing I can do about you." Starry Palace Ji Hui crossed her hands on her hips and said with a somewhat helpless expression. "The teacher doesn't understand your anxious feelings, but just wants to talk to everyone more. Since you are so curious, I'll tell you. Why does it sound like being bullied?" Biqigu is really speechless. "Send this down." At this moment, Jirui from the Star Palace handed over a box of things similar to a mobile phone from front to back. Biqigu also received 3 sets and passed 2 sets to Baibua Qianshuan behind him. He breathed a slight sigh of relief when he saw the other person lowering their head and passing one of them to his back. When passing textbooks back in junior high school, the girl behind me cried and publicly said, "I've touched Biqigu, I don't want it." At that time, I had a strong desire to die. Fortunately, Baibua Qianshuan didn't say that, otherwise he might really want to be foolish. The school has a special rule called the S system. The newly issued student ID terminal is similar to a mobile phone, but it is only for internal school communication, and external networks can only browse information. It also has a payment function similar to a credit card, but the difference is that it consumes not money but points. Now there are 100,000 points inside, each point equals 1 yuan. In addition, the points will be transferred to your account on the first day of each month. With the points, you can purchase everything. The benefits of the Star Palace are concise and concise. Slightly lifting his chin and inserting his hands into his waist, he looked proud. "No more." Someone murmured loudly. "This is too short, isn't it? Since I am a teacher, please give me a good explanation for my students, bastard." Feeling a few lines of sight, Biqigu realized that it was himself who was making a sound and awkwardly lowered his head. Compared to Chigu classmates, right? The Palace of Stars, with one hand on the waist, swayed its jade finger and coaxed slowly. "You should know that work is a woman's natural enemy, and of course, if you can stop working, you can stop working. Compared to work, teachers prefer gossip and shopping. Biqigu can come to me anytime, and teachers are very welcome. Staying up late is the natural enemy of women, right?" This guy actually wants to refuse the job with a grandiose tone. Surprisingly, he could have the same dream as him, perhaps a very excellent teacher. That's strange. Biqigu chuckled twice and once again sighed at the teacher's unreliability. An unreliable teacher, a class full of enemies, freshly filled. What kind of youth will my youth become? Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 003. Your excellence is too much, isn't it? You are listening at Novel Full.audio. No matter how embarrassed Biqigu has been for too long, a few people in Class B raised their hands to signal. Just you, the Star Palace didn't pay much attention, and the jade hand pointed to him and said, "Cute Fanbo, do you have any questions?" Teacher. Is 1,000,000 points a bit too much? We are just ordinary students, how could the school be so generous, said Ichinos with some confusion as he stood up. Ordinary high school students have less than 10,000 yuan in pocket money. Even if it includes 3 meals and daily necessities, only 20,000 to 30,000 yuan is enough. 100,000 is just too much. There are 160 students in one grade and 480 students in the entire school. Every month it's 48 million, and every year it's nearly 600 million. There are also various settings and operations of the Beech Tree Shopping Center. You should know that they are all unemployed students. Even with a national background, this is just too much. And, the teacher just said that there are 100,000 points in the student ID now, and the points will be transferred in on the first day of each month. Does this mean that 100,000 points will be transferred every month? I also think so. Someone responded, and Kanzaki at the front table also nodded, looking at the Star Palace with a puzzled gaze. There are many smart people in the world, and someone quickly discovers the problem. Of course. It cannot be ruled out that Ichinos and others are already excellent. In fact, only 3 people raised their hands, including Ichinos, Kanzaki, and Shibata, who looked like a daimyo. Good question. Starry Palace Magistrate Huey's jade hand gestured proudly and said. Since you have asked sincerely, I will mercifully tell you that it is your freedom to consider whatever you want. Are you Musashi? Biqigu roasted in his heart that he dared to bet that the teacher of Star Palace never had a boyfriend. Upon hearing her words, the people in Class B all breathed a sigh of relief. There is no positive answer, obviously a negative meaning, not every month there are 100,000 points. After all, there is no pie in the world that is wasted, and everyone knows the basic principle. So, Teacher Star Palace. What is the reason for the difference in monthly points? Why does the school give us 100,000 points when we start school? This is just too many points. Is it a judgment that we will be in a difficult situation due to points in the future, so we need to prepay 100,000 points in advance? What does it mean to have points to buy everything? Yeah, the concept of everything is a bit vague, and it's hard to imagine schools with a national background experiencing such omissions. Ichinos, Kanzaki, and others were asking several questions in a row, causing everyone around them to feel a bit confused. Hello. It's really fake. Biqigu was simply stunned. Undoubtedly, it is a nationally renowned top university, and these people are also too outstanding. They even asked several questions that he did not even consider. Originally confident in his own insight, Biqigu no longer dares to underestimate it. The key issue is it really okay for me to stay here? How do you feel that it's not up to par? Speaking of why this school hires people who have submitted blank papers, it's ridiculous. I want to go home now. Biqigu climbed on the table and watched them perform. Stop and stop. The Star Palace arms are crossed in front of the chest. Since you have so many questions, let me answer them one by one. Looking at the teacher on the podium, Ichinos and others looked with anticipation. Ping pong taught. The Star Palace blinked its beautiful eyes and said, the answer is, everyone thinks for themselves. Alright, we're done with the task. I'll leave the rest of the time to you. The teacher will leave first. Remember to attend the enrollment ceremony in an hour. Speaking. I didn't wait for Ichinos and others to react. The Star Palace quickly slipped out of the classroom, but just halfway through, it seemed like remembering to quickly walk to the podium. I almost forgot, there's another important rule I haven't told you. Unlike the smiling posture just now, Star Palace is now holding the podium with both hands and a serious expression on its face. Because the school is a single dormitory, it is strictly prohibited to have improper sexual relationships, but in fact, as long as it is not discovered, there is no problem. As long as there is no baby, there is no problem. Remember to tell the teacher if anyone you like, the teacher will cover up for you. Class B fell into a long silence. It's simply speechless. Important rules. Is that all? Why do everyone look silent? The Star Palace had a pretty face and was a bit angry with both hands inserted into the waist. This is my personal intelligence for everyone. When you hear this rule, you should be excited. Follow me, The Star Palace excitedly waved its pink fist. It seems that no one responds, and she will keep waving like this. Helpless, Shibata and others glanced at each other and waved their fists in response. It's really fake. Looking at the whole class in front of me, I punched and cheered for the possibility of engaging in inappropriate sexual relationships. Biqigu sighs with relief. What are you, a group of idiots? I suddenly felt worried about his future. Anyway, it doesn't matter if his dream is to be the head of the family, it just feels a bit awkward. It just doesn't seem very suitable for this class. Is that right? I'll see you later, everyone. The Star Palace finally left the classroom satisfied, leaving behind the silent crowd of Class B. Half loud. Finally, someone exclaimed. What a amazing teacher. Indeed. Let's put these aside in advance, as far as we can see. Kenzaki stood up expressionlessly and said, the reason why Teacher Star Palace is unable to inform us is that this should also be part of the so.called S system rules. The adjustment is really fast. Hiro Shinzaki, Your Excellence makes me feel awkward. Biqigu silently said in his heart, when will this class gathering continue? It should be possible to leave now, right? Kenzaki, I think we can discuss this later. Ichino stood up and covered his chest with one hand, with a bright smile on his face, saying. Although we just got to know each other, there are still many people who are not clear about each other's names. I suggest everyone introduce themselves first, and then discuss the part about the rules. What do you think? Although he spoke like this, Ichino's gaze turned to Kenzaki, seeking his opinion. After all, Kenzaki originally brought the topic to the direction of rules, while Ichino's tended to handle interpersonal relationships first. This is undoubtedly equivalent to hitting Kenzaki's face. No problem. Kenzaki nodded in understanding and said, Your judgment is correct, it's because I didn't consider everyone's emotions. After all, discussing people who don't know each other here will undoubtedly only make people awkward, and such judgments are more accurate and comprehensive. So let me start first, how about that? I don't know why. Biqigu felt as if Ichino's had glanced at him. This is obviously impossible. After all, the two of them can't even be considered acquaintances. Of course. My name is Yazili Fonbua. If you don't mind, you can call me Fonbua directly. I like all kinds of sweets, especially red bean sandbags. I'm a little bad at sports. Ichino's self-introduction is perfect, and it inevitably reminds Hachiman of the past. When I mustered the courage to introduce myself in junior high school. Stuttering due to excessive nervousness caused a burst of laughter, and some even exclaimed, let's go to the next one first, which made people feel embarrassed and want to die. To avoid repeating the same mistakes. Taking advantage of everyone's attention being drawn to Ichino's, Biqigu silently chose to stand up and leave. Although not worthy of pride. But only in this inconspicuous aspect, Biqigu is very confident. Even walking on the street won't attract anyone's attention. Perhaps it was due to adolescent syndrome. This may be considered a superpower. Biqigu secretly felt a bit proud, with the corners of his mouth unconsciously rising slightly. He accidentally caught sight of Bible Qinshuan. Well. After all, it's normal to be found in the classroom section near the corridor. But the other party's face turned red, and they quickly shifted their gaze to look at Ichinos, pretending not to have seen anything. It seemed that Hino Snow also noticed it, but didn't say much. Perhaps, just pretending to be invisible may be the other person's unique tenderness. Just thinking about this. Biqigu feels a bit like crying. Forget it. More importantly, he still has many questions to ask Star Palace teacher. Although Ichinos and others have asked many questions, it seems that they have not found the key points. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 004. The Incredible Youth. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The speed at which the Star Palace tells the rules is extremely fast. So much so that no one can be seen inside the teaching building. Soon. Biqigu Hachiman noticed the figure of Zhihui in the Star Palace and ran quickly to her side. Ah, Biqigu Jun. Starry Palace Zhihui stopped and joked with a smile, what's up with you? It shouldn't be love at first sight, teacher. But teacher, you need to think carefully about it. The latter sentence is redundant. Biqigu Hachiman is somewhat speechless. I don't know why. Even if you get too close to a girl, you may feel nervous and sweat in your palms, but you are not embarrassed when facing women of other age groups. Rather, it may be due to having a younger sister, who is actually quite good at dealing with young girls. As for the Star Palace, it feels no different from a little girl. I have something I want to ask the teacher. Biqigu said candidly. The Star Palace wrinkled her eyebrows without any trace, but Biqigu keenly noticed that she suddenly felt a little angry. Why didn't you ask in the classroom just now? Well. Biqigu said awkwardly, in short, there are many reasons. For example, what? The Star Palace refuses to give up. Although the school has just started, he ran out alone to ask questions, even though he is also a member of Class B. Serious suspicion, Biqigu did not consider himself a member of Class B. For example. Because I want to ask some more personal questions, said Biqigu with a sharp turn in his eyes. The Starry Palace revealed a scrutinizing gaze, instantly giving Biqigu a feeling of being seen through. What kind of ghost school? The people in this school are really terrible. In fact, the Star Palace is just pretending to be cute, but it's possible that it's actually a teacher demon. Ask. For a long time, the Star Palace finally inserted its hands into its waist, looking like you were coming to coax me, and proudly said, however, whether or not to answer depends on my mood. Can the school apply for voluntary withdrawal? Biqigu's face is serious. Although I don't know how I was admitted, I still can't voluntarily drop out. A school without a small town, even if it is luxurious, has no meaning at all. Not to mention. Just 10 minutes ago, his youth had already ended. The Star Palace was stunned for a moment. Gyeogyeching is one of Sakurajima's top universities, and being admitted is equivalent to almost having a smooth future, at least in the eyes of new students. But teaching for so many years. It's my first time encountering this and thinking about dropping out at the beginning of school. Why do you ask that? The Star Palace visibly furrowed its eyebrows and said. Well, anyway. There are many reasons. Biqigu has a careless eye. This time, the Star Palace did not inquire further. For someone who lacks ambition, staying at this school is also a waste. Sure. The school will notify parents that students are unable to adapt to the school, said Starry Palace bluntly. No, I didn't mean that. Biqigu chuckled twice and explained, what I mean is, can I be dismissed without notifying my parents, or if my abilities are insufficient to keep up with my studies? Poor ability. I'm sure my parents can't say anything anymore. As for understanding his parents, don't be joking. He believes that the stinky old man and others are celebrating and finally sent him away. Please understand the hammer. Shit dad, give me a good job. The Star Palace blinked its beautiful eyes and finally understood his meaning. This is obviously not a genuine desire to drop out of school, but rather something that he is attached to outside of school and wants to find a suitable excuse to persuade his parents. There's still hope. Although the school has some special features. But as the class leader of Class B, she still cares about every student, so she can write down the names of each student before entering school. Star Palace Jirway is determined to pay attention and will do his best to save this lost lamb. Sure. Starry Palace nodded and said with a smile, if your strength is not strong, you will be expelled sooner or later. But if you deliberately hide your strength and withdraw, I will tell your parents truthfully, after all, this is the school's obligation. Special. Does it mean that I could have dropped out of school by putting on a bad show, but now this path is blocked by myself? If Fecal Dad knew he was deliberately giving up such a good opportunity, he will definitely be kicked out of the house. That won't work. He deeply loves his parents and sincerely hopes that they will live a long life. I hope my parents can evolve from social animals to ultimate social animals, and work hard to support him at the age of 100. Being kicked out of the house is absolutely not allowed to happen. Not to mention, what strength does he have to hide? Originally just the main husband of the target family, an ordinary person who cannot even make friends can only be considered as a reserve member of the future social animal army. This self-awareness is still better than that of Chigu Hachiman. Even newcomers Ichinos, Kanzaki, and Shibata are clearly much better than him, let alone other classes. I see, please don't do this. Lower your head and admit defeat then Chigu. What kind of cute teacher is that in front of me? It's like a demon that can see through people's hearts, instantly seeing through his disguise. However, Star Palace, what does it mean to be dropped out of school sooner or later just now? Is dropping out of this school very ordinary? Biqigu was a bit curious. Is there any other question? The Star Palace nodded without concealing anything. Even if you know this clearly, you can't think of anything. There is indeed no free lunch in the world. Biqigu felt a bit speechless in his heart. If you are labeled as dropping out of school on Sakurajima, your life is probably over. This school is simply a pit for the father. However, this seems to have nothing to do with his goal of attending a private university and dreaming of being the head of a family. As long as I'm good enough to show off, no one can target me. And about humanities and sciences. Biqigu said seriously that it was this school that almost shattered his life plan. This school doesn't have any humanities or sciences. Before he could finish speaking, the Star Palace interrupted, whether it's humanities or sciences, you should study hard. Sure enough. Biqigu once again sighs at the garbage school. The original plan was to give up science and focus on humanities after graduating from junior high school, and then use my father's money to choose a private university. After all, he really hates mathematics. I just want to learn useful things. After all, hard work does not necessarily lead to success, and even failure is the result of most people. If you can relax, just relax. I can't even give up on science now. I remember the blank paper I submitted during the Biqigu entrance exam. The Star Palace pinched its chin and looked at the young man in front of it, saying, "Is there anything bothering you?" Haha. Biqigu awkwardly avoided his gaze and let out two perfunctory chuckles. If you know, just be sensible and don't let me enroll. Take it seriously. Forget it. If you have any problems with your studies, you can contact Fanbo. She is the top scorer in the entrance exam, so don't come to me, said Starry Palace proudly, with both hands inserted into her waist. Normally, shouldn't we just leave it all to the teacher, here to showcase our lovely side? Hello, is it really okay for a teacher who hates work so much? Biqigu is somewhat speechless. However, on the other hand, Ichinos is truly outstanding, and there seem to be an exceptionally large number of outstanding people in this class. Starry Palace narrowed its eyes and said with a smile, does the teacher look like someone who deliberately pretends to be cute? Like. You are already. Honest Biqigu will not lie. The Star Palace clenched its pink fist and shook it, without concealing its threat. Confirmed. This is a little devil that makes people very angry. No, I didn't mean that. Biqigu broke out in cold sweat, and in an instant, he half-stepped back and said, even if the teacher doesn't do anything, he's very cute. Is this mocking the teacher for being lazy? No, I definitely didn't mean that. Forget it. The Star Palace smiled and patted his shoulder, indicating that there was no need to be nervous. Is there anything else? Biqigu breathed a sigh of relief. The teachers at this school are really scary. Also, is it true that after graduation, one can have the opportunity to choose a career freely? Are there any conditions? Looking at the dead fish eyes of Biqigu in front of him, the Star Palace had an illusion that he had already penetrated everything, as if he didn't care about answering. In fact, it is indeed so. The only important things are dropping out of school and dividing subjects into humanities and sciences, while the rest are simply not believing. Free tuition fees and free career choices. There can't be such a good thing in the world, and even if it does, it won't happen to him. Biqigu is really sharp. The Star Palace spoke in a somewhat admiring tone. Biqigu chuckled twice and said, ordinary people know that there is no such thing as a wasted lunch. Is there really any trap? How could there be such a thing? It's more serious than the delusion of Chigu Jun being murdered. The Star Palace knocked on his head with a backpack and a pretty face, saying, it's true to choose a career freely, but there are indeed conditions. What conditions? Poo-poo. The Star Palace once again crossed its chest with its white and tender jade arms and said, no passage ahead. Can't you say it again? Compared to Chigu, it's a bit speechless. I'm afraid there might be some serious illness in this school, so students can guess everything. However, it's quite easy to guess. Freedom to choose a career is indeed conditional, and only by passing the test of school can one have the opportunity to choose a career freely. But if it is a test of students by the school, there is no need to conceal it, and it is not a problem to tell the truth directly. After all, students also have no right to resist. There is only one remaining answer. Competition between students. It's just a simple exclusion method, and I believe the excellent Ichinos and others have already discovered it. The competition between students. Biqigu lowered his head and murmured in contemplation, and there are only a few people who have the right to freely choose their careers. The condition is academic performance, sports performance, a talent student. Or is it a comprehensive evaluation? Or it could be the Lone Ranger. After all, the Lone Ranger is the group with the fewest number of people. Doesn't that mean he already has the opportunity to choose his career freely? That's simply amazing. Biqigu thought happily. And on the other side, the pupils of the Star Palace shrank slightly before facing the young man in front of them for the first time. Having served as a class leader for so many years, I have seen intelligent students who are not familiar with anything, but my thinking basically stops at the step of the school's test of students. After all, whether it is primary or junior high school, schools are the absolute dominant party, and it is difficult for people to overcome such inherent beliefs. Only in the following month, only then did I realize that it was competition among students. And the man in front of him only considered this step based on a few questions. It's simply too scary. I thought Class B had an outstanding talent like Ichinos. I have already found the treasure. I didn't expect to have such a talented person, but it seems like I'm a bit insecure and not good at communicating with others. She doesn't know yet. Biqigu Hachiman's thinking is not yet over. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 005. Did you intentionally or accidentally? You are listening at novel full.audio. Seeing Biqigu thinking to this extent, the Star Palace, which had originally intended to be lazy, also became serious. Teacher of the Star Palace. Biqigu was a bit puzzled and said, how many people had the right to freely choose their careers last year? Since the Star Palace cannot answer, let's change the angle. As long as we have a clear understanding of last year's situation, we can roughly infer what specific conditions are needed for free employment. Starry Palace avoided the topic and blinked her beautiful eyes. Speaking of which, why did Biqigu Jun reply to me? Aren't you really captivated by the teacher? Ha ha ha. Biqigu chuckled twice. I couldn't distinguish for a moment whether it was due to rule restrictions that I couldn't answer, or whether this unreliable teacher was deliberately playing tricks. Never mind, since you have considered this point. Starry Palace frowned unhappily before sighing and saying, then I can also answer. Only Class A students have the right to choose their careers freely. It's not a big surprise. After all, this is also one of the possibilities he anticipated. Only Class A has the opportunity to choose a career freely and will inevitably have corresponding channels for promotion. There are several ways to get into Class A, then. Biqigu doesn't pay much attention to the Tao. Since I am unable to drop out, I still want to obtain this right as much as possible. Anyway, it's already Class B, and there are still outstanding students like Ichino's Hanbo and Kenzaki in the class. It's just a matter of time before we become Class A. Just hold the thigh of Ichino's honestly. What a cunning way of asking questions. The Star Palace pursed its lips. It's really despicable to ask directly how to get into Class A without asking how. Being cunning or something, the teacher is really excessive. Biqigu said seriously, this is just finding the answer in the most efficient way, even the police will choose the most efficient approach. It's better to say that this is the right choice. Moreover, considering that the Star Palace teacher may not be able to answer, I deliberately used this questioning method, and the teacher can also answer at their discretion. It can be said that I was thinking for the teacher and specifically used this questioning method. It's not that he's being clever. Zhihui from the Star Palace was slightly taken aback. Only then did I realize that this guy still has a stubborn mouth, he's really a little devil that makes people angry. Under attack. Just listen well to the teacher's words. The Star Palace gently tapped his head with a clipboard before lifting his snow-white chin and proudly said. There are 2 ways to be promoted to Class A. The first way is that I can't tell you yet. The second way is to collect 20 million points and you can get the right to transfer. I see, Teacher Star Palace, you just said. What points do you mean? Not really. I just said it. If I say no, it means no. Starry Palace, with hands akimbo and delicate body slightly leaning forward, stared at Biqigu Hachiman with beautiful eyes. Biqigu believes that he is not someone without emotional intelligence. Obviously, the Star Palace encountered some taboo and accidentally slipped the tongue. Number of points. Words starting with a single character are extremely limited, and only individuals can be thought of, so the corresponding ones are mostly referred to as a collective. The only class or grade that can be promoted is Class A. Obviously, it's class points and individual points. Based on the speculation of Ichino's and her colleagues, the monthly individual points are uncertain and are mostly influenced by the class points. It's just unclear what the proportion is. Okay. Biqigu admitted, did you intentionally or accidentally, teacher? Being able to become a teacher at such a top school is undoubtedly not a social elite, and it is hard to imagine that an excellent Star Palace teacher was careless. Starry Palace's beautiful eyes widened as she lifted the book clipboard in a pose to strike. I was wrong. Biqigu leaned back and quickly surrendered, saying, but every month, in 3 years, it's only 3.6 million, 20 million. It's impossible to think of any points. Do you have any other ways to earn points? How many are there? Has anyone collected 20 million before? Why do you have so many questions? The beautiful eyes of the Star Palace stare again. I have a question to ask the teacher, isn't it common sense? Biqigu stubbornly said, speaking of which, is it not the teacher's duty to intercept students? Don't ask, asking again will make me angry. The Star Palace's eyes were wide-eyed, and its pink and beautiful eyes shone like gemstones, appearing somewhat cute. The man in front of me has amazing insight and is too keen. 20 million points per person. Just a momentary habit, I accidentally slipped my tongue just now. This is only the first day of school. If he continues to ask, he may have violated the rules himself. But the bonus will be deducted. Got it. Feeling that the Star Palace seemed a bit angry, Biqigu immediately prepared to leave and said, the enrollment ceremony is about to begin, I'm leaving first. Say it. Biqigu quickly turned and left, realizing that the teacher's anger was so terrifying. Stop and come back to me. At this moment, the Star Palace coquettishly said. I feel like I already know how to handle this student. Yes. Biqigu once again admitted his guilt and forced a smile out of his face when he returned to the Star Palace, saying, Teacher of the Star Palace, is there anything else? Humph. You wouldn't think the teacher would let you go like this, would you? Speaking. The Star Palace lifted the book clipboard in a way that was about to be beaten, and Biqigu quickly closed his eyes and curled up his head to prepare for being beaten. Let her vent her anger. After all, the other person looks like they are already in their 20s, approaching menopause, and having a temper is normal. Biqigu thought with malicious intent. I heard a soft murmur in my ear, exhaling like an orchid. The teacher doesn't dislike such a cunning boy. Biqigu instantly opened his eyes, and Starry Palace Jirhui, who was close to his ear, placed her hands behind her and swayed her body as she retreated. The air was still filled with a lily-like fragrance. See you later, Biqigu Jun. Starry Palace, with her hands resting on her back, stepped back step by step until a few fans turned around and left. Looking at her departing figure, Biqigu's face turned slightly red. As a man with many dark histories and never having a girlfriend, the scene just now was too exciting. If I were still in junior high school, I would definitely confess in an instant and get dumped. Surprisingly, I was dumped. 80% of men in the world hold the foolish idea of whether they like me or not. As a seasoned Lone Ranger, it is naturally impossible to fall in the same pit for the second time. However, how to say it? He is still not very good at dealing with this teacher. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 006. School is very dangerous, go back to the White Room quickly. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Number 1 Sports Center. By the time Kobayashi arrived, almost all the students had already arrived. Quickly find the queue of Class B, and Biqigu Hachiman stands directly at the back row, 3 positions away from the person in front. It looks like it belongs to a collective, yet somewhat uncertain, belonging to an irreconcilable distance. At least the conversation with the Star Palace teacher just now. He also has no intention of communicating with Class B. After all, Ichinos and others are so excellent, I'm afraid they had already thought of it, and even if they didn't, they would have known sooner or later. And Anyway, the school starts with Class B and those excellent classmates. It's a perfect start. Just hold on to Achino's thighs and wait for him to be promoted to Class A, then work hard towards the goal of scoring 20 million points for himself. Well, the school's management is really relaxed. Listening to the principal's lengthy speech, Biqigu was lost in thought as he looked around. Both Class A and Class B are lined up neatly. On the other hand, Class C and Class D. Even though the principal was speaking on stage, there was still constant noise below, but no one stopped him. Anyway, with nothing to do, he just took a casual look. This is one of his 108 skills. Time acceleration, which allows him to pass boring time unconsciously. It has to be said that the appearance level of this school is really high. If it were in junior high school, maybe we're about to break through the record of being dumped. The opening ceremony quickly ended under the acceleration of time. Biqigu Hachiman turned around and left. It's not that he doesn't want to communicate with Class B, it's just that he thinks of the hesitant look in Ji-Shu's eyes, which the little circle hates the most. There are still many people who hold similar thoughts to him, such as Biqigu Hachiman following the crowd and looking at a flying fish head ahead. Wow, the movements are even faster than him. It seems that he is also a seasoned Lone Ranger, deeply comprehending the mysteries of being inconspicuous. However, just like the double messenger and the double messenger will attract each other, the Lone Ranger and the Lone Ranger will also attract. I can't escape the eyes of Biqigu Hachiman. Stare at. Biqigu Hachiman stared listlessly at the flying fish head in front of him. There's no reason for it, it's just a pain in the face of idleness. The flying fish head in front of me has 1, 2, 3, and 4 strands, with soft and smooth hair. It is obvious that I just washed my hair yesterday, and I am mostly a healthy and high-quality young person. Just like him. He is a Lone Ranger among the Lone Rangers and has evolved into the ultimate Lone Ranger. What kind of useless observation is it? Suddenly, the flying fish head in front suddenly turned around, and a pair of ordinary dead fish eyes made Biqigu think he was looking in the mirror. 2 pairs of dead fish eyes looked at each other. Ling Xiaolu Qinglong feels a bit sore or alert. As a person in a white room, I grew up under surveillance cameras and am extremely sensitive to vision. Starting from just now. The man in front of him has been staring at him, without any concealment, making his heart furrow. If the other party is a classmate, Ling Xiaolu could still understand that she wanted to communicate with him, but within a minute of enrollment, he took note of the names and appearances of all the classmates in the class. But the other person is not, just staring at the back of his head. Should it be exposed on the first day of enrollment, or is there something different about oneself from ordinary people? Ling Xiaolu Qinglong is particularly vigilant. However, always stay in a closed environment to learn, although there is rich theoretical knowledge, there is no social experience. Even, the concept of ordinary people comes from books, or is this what is called a stalker in books? It shouldn't be. He's a man. Although I have heard of men with special hobbies. It's only the first day of enrollment, less than 2 hours. Did you just bump into it? Still being directly targeted. Is the external environment so terrifying? Unconsciously, a long-lost sense of fear rose in Ling Xiaolu Qinglong's heart. Originally a finished product of the White Room, he had already lost all emotions, but for some reason. This moment Ling Xiaolu felt a tightness in the back. This stems from fear inherent in instinct. Although she wanted to explore, Ayanaki didn't know how to speak. The best way was for the other person to speak first and then use past knowledge to guide them. And on the other side, Biqigu Hachiman is also a bit confused. Is this person sick? As soon as he turns around, he keeps staring at him. Maybe there's some strange smell on him. It shouldn't be. He was once talked about by middle school classmates and often had a sweat smell on his body. He was quite diligent in cleaning and almost washed himself seriously every day. I haven't encountered any women who make me nervous today, so I'm not nervous enough to sweat. There shouldn't be any strange smell, right? Not to mention. Even if you say it directly, it's okay to keep staring at what it means. Neuropathy. The people around left one after another, their two pairs of dead fish eyes staring at each other, but no one spoke up first. Finally, Biqigu couldn't bear it anymore and nodded slightly, and Ayanaki couldn't help but nod along. I watched as Biqigu lifted his foot and brushed past me. The two seemed to be playing a secret code. What? Watching his departing figure, Ling Xiaolu's head was clear and filled with question marks. This is how many meanings do you mean? Although I have read extensively, I haven't taught it in the book. And on the other side. Neurosis. Biqigu arrived at the convenience store speechless. What is a lunatic who used to either ignore or curse directly, and kept staring at me like this? Enter the convenience store. Various daily necessities are placed in the most prominent position in front of me. It says, free, on it. I have already understood the importance of points, and Biqigu suddenly realized that this is probably insurance for those who have lost their personal points. However, the quality is not poor. Although I haven't seen it in the market. But they are all well-known brands, mostly products that these companies are still testing. After all, running such a large school. The annual expenses are bound to be considerable, and there must be some exchanges with major financial conglomerates, all of whom serve as experimental subjects for mice. Biqigu doesn't mind. After all, it has entered the advertising stage, and the products of large companies are basically not problematic, and they have no requirements for material life. Worst. If these products really have safety hazards, you don't have to worry about them for the rest of your life. You can definitely make a lot of money. Moreover, as long as you save 20 million points, you can have the right to choose your career freely, but with a thigh like Ichino's, there's no need to rush. Biqigu puts various daily necessities into the shopping basket. At this moment, a slender and fair little hand held the other end of the shampoo. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 007. Iceberg Girl. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Biqigu looked up. What caught the eye was a person with long black hair, a stunning face, and skin as white and tender as a baby, except for those purple-red beautiful eyes that made people feel a hint of coldness. This bottle of shampoo was the first one I touched, and you are about 0.5 seconds slower than me, so this bottle of shampoo should belong to me. The girl's face was cold and her tone was plain, as if she was not arguing but narrating objective facts. Yeah, I'm sorry. Biqigu apologized accidentally and quickly released his right hand to turn around and take another bottle. What's this? It's too scary. I feel like I was freezing stiff just now. And there are so many nearby, as for that. However, the other party didn't actually dislike what he had touched. If I were in middle school, I'm afraid I would have been moved to tears. Maybe the other person is still a good person. Biqigu didn't think too much and continued to take a few towels and toothbrushes before turning around and leaving. Wait. The girl suddenly spoke up. So, what's up? Biqigu looked back with some confusion and said, I shouldn't have taken anything strange just now. He glanced at the shopping basket with a bit of confidence. I see you only selected free daily necessities and supplies. The girl walked up to him with a shopping basket in hand, stopping at a step's distance, her beautiful eyes seemingly examining something. Why? Why do you want to ask? Because you want to save some points. Biqigu swallowed the throat canal. How could this person handle things? His tone of voice was as cold as eternal ice, just like those women who used to hate him. It was too scary. Save points. The girl was a bit puzzled and said, "You should have chosen something like me, both of which are freshmen. The school has distributed 100,000 points to each person, which is completely enough to use. There should be no need to save. You haven't picked all the ones for free yet." Biqigu is a bit speechless. "How dare you say it to me? I am me, you are you, not on the same level." The girl looked up and down at the man in front of her and said calmly, "You look like the type who is content with the status quo, has no ambition, and spends money recklessly. Why do you want to save points now?" Biqigu's mouth twitched. This guy is really going too far. Take back the statement she made earlier that she was a good person. Surprisingly, such a blatant evaluation of the person we met for the first time is extremely bad in character. However, all that is said is true. Although he doesn't have much demand for material life, if it weren't for saving 20 million personal points, he is indeed a moonlit tribe who spends money recklessly. The people in this school are so excellent, they can see through his essence at a glance. As for why we save points, it's not that we can't tell her, but strictly speaking, this school class is in a competitive relationship with each other. Speaking of which, who the hell is this guy? He can't even recognize the people in his class, let alone the people in front of him. By the way, who are you? Biqigu mustered up courage and spoke in an unfriendly tone, hoping that the other party would understand the difficulties and retreat. He had no obligation to answer the other party in the first place. Class D for 1 year, Hariko Suzuki. I'm from Class B, Biqigu Hachiman. I didn't ask your name, what was your answer just now? Hariko Suzuki said with a plain expression. This guy is really excessive. When the other person introduces themselves, it's basic etiquette to exchange names. Sorry, since you are from Class D, I cannot tell you. Biqigu was a bit speechless, and after speaking, he turned around and left. Speaking of which, the other person standing 1 meter away, knowing how to manage social distance, actually makes him feel much more at ease and needs to be well thanked. Or is it just that you don't want to get close to him? Don't thank me then. Wait a minute. Hariko Suzuki took an instant forward and grabbed his wrist. Biqigu suddenly turned around, his face turning red and his mouth making a strange sound. This kind of innocent action can make boys misunderstand and ultimately lead to death. If you understand, in the future, you should ensure that physical contact is prohibited, and after class, you are not allowed to sit on a boy's desk. Don't forget to bring anything and don't borrow from a boy. Do you understand? What else is there? Biqigu felt a bit helpless. Speaking of which, this guy has so much strength, it feels like he's even stronger than him. Are you really a girl? Or are the people in this school really so outstanding? Whether it's Ichinos, Kanzaki, Shibata, or the outstanding Hariko ringtone in front of him, they all make him feel a bit insecure. Even if we give it our all, I believe dropping out is only a matter of time. It's simply impossible to compete with these people. Can't you tell me because I'm in Class D? Hariko Suzuki's snow-white little hand tightened again, as if she had grasped the key point, and she said solemnly, "What exactly does it mean? Please explain it carefully." Excessive, this guy definitely has no friends. Literally, it's your freedom to think whatever you want. Biqigu modeled the tone of the Star Palace, but she didn't get used to it. Can you please let it go? I see, that's great. I understand. Why? Shouldn't you be trying to hit me? Biqigu silently swallowed his saliva, which was too scary. What can you do to tell me? Hariko ringtone released her little hand and asked with a burning gaze. Biqigu looked at the girl in front of him with some helplessness. It seemed that the other party really wanted to know. Strictly speaking, this is not really any great intelligence, and in a while, the whole school may become aware of it. But after all, there is a competitive relationship between classes. Collaborating with the enemy feels a bit uncomfortable. You should go ask your class supervisor. Biqigu raised his hand and signaled to turn and leave, which was already the limit of his ability. Speaking of which, why must I ask him? Can't you just ask the senior grade directly? Even if there are any rules and restrictions, it's okay to ask the teacher. Finding a teacher if there are any issues should be basic knowledge, right? He just doesn't know. Most people can't even think of what to ask specifically. Hariko Suzuki reluctantly pursed the corners of her mouth. If I knew what to ask, I would have gone and asked. I see, how about 20,000 points? Tell me everything you know. Upon hearing this, Biqigu stopped his steps. He has already made some speculations about the class points. Judging from the performance of Class D at the entrance ceremony just now, it is not a match for Class B. Intelligence is not very important either. Swapping intelligence for personal points doesn't seem to be a problem. Speaking of which, he just realized that intelligence can actually sell money, but it's a bit unlikely for him to negotiate with people. Just thinking about it makes me feel awkward. But is 20,000 too little? Since someone is buying, it should be okay to sell more. 25,000. Biqigu immediately turned back and said, I'll tell you 25,000. Deal. Wait a moment, I made a mistake earlier. 30,000 is 30,000. Deal. Wait a moment. 30,000 is my limit. A newly opened intelligence cannot have greater value than this. This is so. Biqigu said awkwardly. What the other party said is also reasonable. If his intelligence does not gain recognition from the class, it does not have much value. But human inertia and habits are not something that can be changed in a day. Based on the performance of Class D just now, I feel that it's a waste of effort for Rinyan Hori to know. Is that right here to say? Looking around Biqigu, there are still many people in the convenience store. Who would let these guys make a profit for nothing? The intelligence comes from you, where do you think it's more appropriate to say it? Hariko Ringtone's hands wrapped around her chest, but it didn't mean much. Let's find a place where nobody is around. Biqigu didn't care and said, I have something else to do. Could you please wait for me a moment? No problem. Hariko Suzuki has no objections, but she has some doubts in her heart. What effective intelligence can a man in front of me who is full of nonsense and loves to be greedy for small gains really know? However, whether the intelligence is worth 30,000 yuan depends entirely on her judgment. The man in front of me seems quite easy to bully. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Are you the only one who deserves Chapter 008? You are listening at Novel Full.audio. In the convenience store of Taoshu Shopping Center. Biqigu's dead fish eyes occasionally drift towards her back, and a beautiful girl with a stunning face and a petite figure is carrying a shopping basket and following behind, feeling like she will be shot through by the laser eyes of those around her at any time. Following behind is Hariko Ringtone. Based on his observations today, Hariko Suzuki's appearance is enough to rank in the top few of the school. Hello, this is a youth romance comedy unfolding. Just kidding. Seeking meaning from accidental phenomena or objective facts, but the bad habit of unpopular men, she is just for intelligence. Biqigu arrived at the freezer. He urgently needs a can of high-sugar Max coffee to make up for that injured soul. The drinks in the freezer are dazzling, but I haven't found the highly designed yellow can for a long time. Those who do not believe in evil have searched for Biqigu several times again. Hello, it's really fake, isn't it? Why isn't it? Biqigu is a bit dumbfounded, even unbelievable. Surprisingly, there is no Max coffee. Although Max coffee is not yet fully covered by Sakurajima, Tokyo is right next to Chiba. Surprisingly not. Schools without max coffee can only be evaluated with trash. What kind of school would you dare to claim to be one of the top schools in the country without max coffee? It's shameless and requires some limits. Biqigu is disheartened. Although it's possible to make similar drinks, thinking of not having authentic max coffee for 3 years. Not allowed, this kind of thing is absolutely not allowed to happen. In other words, such schools should go bankrupt and be put back. What's wrong? Hariko ringtone has some doubts. The man in front of me looks like a mollusk suddenly pulled into its spine. It's nothing, let's go. Biqigu shook his head, and Hariko Suzuki didn't care either. Dormitory building. The two quickly found an empty spot downstairs. That's all I know. Biqigu reluctantly bought a bottle of coffee and milk, and started drinking it for no reason. Because he was thinking about how to get the school to add max coffee as soon as possible, he spoke quickly, but fortunately, Rinyan Hori in front of him was an excellent student. I see. Class points and individual points, only Class A has the right to freely choose a career. Your speculation is very reasonable, as far as I can see, it is undoubtedly the truth. Hariko Suzuki stood in front of him, feeling a change of heart. The man in front of me, based solely on a few words, one can infer such a level, although not comparable to her, it is still excellent enough. After all, being able to obtain intelligence from others is also her strength. At least that's what Hariko Suzuki thinks. How's it going? Biqigu urged. If it weren't for these 30,000 points, he would have wanted to go back and write a proposal to denounce this garbage school. Well, your intelligence has enough value. Hariko ringtone did not break his promise. The two of them took out their student ID cards and fiddled with them for a while before figuring out the method of transfer. Student ID. Hariko Suzuki extended her snow-white little hand and handed the phone to him half a beat slower than Kikutani. Neither of them felt any problem, after all, there was nothing invisible in his student ID card. The money has been received, and I have also left you my contact information. Hariko Suzuki placed her student ID in his hand and said, if you have any information in the future, you can tell me. I will give you a reasonable price. No, if there is nothing else, please do not contact me. Do you understand? Hee hee. How arrogant this guy is. Shouldn't it be because she thinks she's beautiful and can do whatever she wants? Men all over the world will like her, right? Understood. Biqigu looked at the 130,000 points on the student ID card and nodded. Hariko Suzuki turned around and left without hesitation. Until her back disappeared, Biqigu opened her address book. I didn't expect it. The first contact person was actually someone from another class, still such a beautiful woman. If it had been before, she would have been happy rolling in bed. Without any hesitation. Click on Hariko ringtone in Biqigu and click on the upper right corner. Delete. Who would contact you, such an arrogant woman? Goodbye to you. Are you also included in my address book? 501, return to the dormitory. A single room that caught my eye, there is a neat single-person celebration room in the corner, with a low table in the center and a desk in the middle. The bathroom and kitchen are all there is to choose from. Biqigu didn't mind sitting at the desk and taking out a pen and paper. Writing a scattered opinion letter, harshly condemning this garbage school. He can't stand the days without max coffee. Until nightfall. Biqigu nodded in satisfaction as he looked at the long text in front of him. Go scold the school tomorrow. At night. After rinsing. Zayamachi, what should I do if I don't have a good meal? Biqigu Hachiman took a sip of instant noodles and tears streamed down his face. He didn't know if Kamachi could take care of himself without him. Damn dad, he insists on forcing himself to come to this school to study. As a punishment for my father. He secretly made up his mind to pursue a doctoral and master's degree after graduating from university, and stayed at home until he turned 30 before going out to work. "Dad, just give me a good job." With a heavy heart full of longing and concern for the small town, Biqigu Hachiman fell asleep. Starting from today, we are about to start a 3-year solitary life. The next morning, until it was close to school time, Biqigu woke up leisurely. After a simple wash, he left the room with the free toast he received yesterday, ready to eat on the way. Feeling the occasional breeze blowing from the balcony, Biqigu couldn't help but glance sideways. After all, it was almost time and there were hardly any students on the road. "I didn't deliberately choose this time." Just without any restraint, it naturally becomes relaxed. Step into the elevator. Biqigu pressed down on the first floor, leaned against the corner, opened a bag of toast and started eating. Anyway, this time doesn't matter to anyone. However, the elevator quickly leaned against the 4th floor. He was slightly flustered and wanted to put the bread in his backpack. After all, eating in the elevator is not a very ethical thing. As the elevator door opened, a human figure appeared in front of him. Biqigu Hachiman suddenly froze. Surprisingly, it was the same paralyzed flying fish head from yesterday. Key issues. The other party kept staring at him. Looking at the man holding toast in front of her, Ling Xiaolu Qinglong hesitated. In theory, the two of them are considered acquainted. But just nodding, Ayanaki Kiyotaka didn't know how to handle it. The most crucial thing is, the other party is suspected of being a stalker in the glass, and with crumbs at the corner of his mouth, it's obvious that he just ate it in the elevator, which should be a bit awkward. Would it be better to wait and enter again later? Two pairs of dead fish eyes stared at each other for a moment, but no one spoke. Biqigu finally understood the other person's meaning and handed over a piece of toast. "Didn't you stare at me for so long just for the bread in my hand? Anyway, I'll give it to you for free. Can you stop reading it?" Ling Xiaolu Qinglong fell into contemplation for a moment before saying, "No need, thank you. I will be late soon." It's not good to continue standing like this, as it inevitably leaves a bad impression on the class. After weighing the pros and cons, Ling Xiaolu Qinglong walked into the elevator and leaned against Biqigu. Although it's not very good, standing in front of you can feel an inexplicable danger happening. After all, the other party sending bread is obviously trying to establish a good relationship. It is likely to be testing his bottom line. This man is really too dangerous. And on the other side, Biqigu also fell into silence. "It's not for bread, so why are you staring at me yesterday and today? I beg for my life. Can the god of elevators please hurry up? What should I do if I live downstairs with a lunatic? Online waiting, urgent. What exactly will my life become? I feel that the future is more difficult than Qigu. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 009. Malicious Little White. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Class B for 1 year. Yoshitaka Hachiman arrived at the classroom, and a group of people from Class B were chatting around Ichinos. It feels like these people gave themselves a glance. Don't worry. I understand. Biqigu glanced away and returned to his seat, putting on his headphones and lying on the table, his movements flowing smoothly. Once a small group is established, it is difficult for people to join. The attitude of the snow yesterday has already indicated that they do not welcome themselves. Don't worry. Hachiman is a man who won't cause trouble. Sure enough. No one will disturb him anymore. Various cheers and laughter echoed from the side of Ichinos once again. Biqigu just opened a gap and secretly observed. Ichinos is truly excellent. In just 1 day, he has become the central figure of the class. The most incredible thing is, She surprisingly managed to overcome gender barriers, with both men and women surrounding Ichinos. There are people like this who should be promoted to class A soon. It's really lucky. Biqigu secretly felt fortunate to be assigned to Class B. There is a person like Ichinos who can slowly save 20 million points, even if he doesn't save them. But it still needs to be saved. From small to large. No matter when or where, he is always alone. No matter what happens, it is one person who overcomes it. When others are talking and comforting each other, it is one person who faces everything directly. This is the true powerhouse. Biqigu raised his mouth slightly and turned his gaze to the other side. If Ichinos is the central figure among girls, then the male is Shibata, and there are even a few girls surrounding him. At first glance, it looks like it's a damn recharge, stop looking. Compared to these, it is more important to think about how to add max coffee to the school. As the class bell rang, a middle-aged teacher walked into the classroom, and the students each returned to their seats. It has to be said. Class B is indeed excellent. Even though the teacher seems very relaxed, almost everyone is in a serious listening posture, with only a few occasionally taking a break. He is much stronger than him. Of course, it's not that he's slacking off. There is no division of arts and sciences. Science cannot be given up directly, so it is better to listen attentively than Chigu. He only learns useful things. But humanities like Mandarin, to be honest. He is still very confident in humanities. As long as you pile up gorgeous rhetoric and write various grandiose praises, you can always get high scores. I'm really lazy to listen. English class hours. Biqigu only felt drowsy listening, it was better for him to self-study. His eyelids began to fight, and he finally fell asleep. In my sleep. I feel like someone is poking his spine from behind, and the key is that he keeps poking and poking, which is really despicable. Biqigu opened his hazy eyes and realized that someone was really poking his spine. Looking back. A girl with short white hair was poking a neutral pen at his back, feeling his gaze and quickly lowering her head to look at the ground with a blush. Remember what's white and what the nameplate has been removed by someone. He doesn't remember the name of the person in front of him, he remembers it was called Xiaobai, that's Xiaobai. Biqigu's gaze was melancholic, and Xiaobai blushed slightly. She looked up and quickly lowered her gaze towards the aisle. He followed Xiaobai's gaze and saw a rubber quietly lying in the middle of the aisle. What, the eraser has come off. That's great. Being bullied by such a shy person almost makes me want to die. But he has also experienced a disastrous defeat. When I was in elementary school, I picked up an eraser for someone with good intentions, and the girl behind me kept wiping it with a tissue. In the end, she cried and said forget it. Biqigu has forgotten how he managed to survive back then. It's impossible to have such a strong heart now. If Xiaobai said this, he might really want to die. So. He turned his head to look at his desk mate next door, who seemed to be named Ji or something like Shui. Remember, it was named Xiaoxue. Feeling the line of sight, Ji Yeshue glanced sideways, then glanced down at Biqigu's signal, and then looked up at the blackboard. It's a lie, is it really fake? Did you not see it when you installed it directly? Biqigu was simply stunned. What kind of scumbag is this? Isn't it a demon who likes to grab children's lollipops, even hesitating to pick up an eraser? Oh. It's me, it's okay then. Under helplessness. Biqigu bent down to grab the eraser and placed it on her desk. Fortunately, Xiaobai picked up the eraser with two small hands and placed it on her chest. Her slightly red pretty face nodded. That's great. If the other person takes out a tissue, he may really cry. Just. Xiaobai, do you drop the eraser too many times? Biqigu's face remained expressionless. I dropped an eraser more than 10 times in an English class, and he has been picking it up for Xiaobai. Don't go too far. This is definitely intentional. Shouldn't it be some new type of bullying? It's a bit tragic to be bullied on the second day of school. I want to die. Finally, after class, Biqigu crawled onto the table and closed his eyes. If Xiaobai kept poking his spine like this, he would have become neurotic. The most crucial thing is that without Max coffee, one is really dying. Biqigu, are you still awake? A soft, energetic voice rang in my ear, as Biqigu crawled onto the table with a tense expression. It seems like the voice of Ichinos, standing next to Xiaobai all morning. Is it bullying? Is it indeed bullying? Absolutely bullying, right? Xiaobai called his companions and wanted to bully him in the most terrifying way. Little White, I didn't expect you to be so malicious at such a young age, I simply misread you. On the first day of school, I offended the central group of the class, it's done. Biqigu closed his eyes and pretended not to hear. If the other party asks him to go to the restroom, what should he do? He can only beg for forgiveness in this way and escape for a while before speaking. Biqigu classmate. However, the other party did not intend to let go, and Biqigu felt someone gently shake his shoulder. Alas, being bullied by the central group is indeed inevitable. Damn it. Then we can't blame him for being impolite. Hao Dai is also a boy, so dealing with two women should not be a problem. Moreover, he has experience in this area and has been bullied in junior high school. This situation. Only send to the person first. Stand up and slap with both hands, showing your fangs first. Only in this way can we avoid being bullied. Think of this. Biqigu's heart was fierce and he stood up in an instant. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 010. Did I suddenly cash out and charge up? You are listening at Novel Full.audio. A stunning pretty face appeared before my eyes. On her fair and snowy face, a brilliant smile is like a spring breeze, as if this smile is enough to nourish a person's soul and make them fight to protect it. The person in front of me is the center of the class, Ichikawa Sai. Xiaobai, Xiaoxue, Hiro Kanzaki, and Shinsei Shibata were also around her, followed by a group of unfamiliar girls. Undoubtedly, it is Ichinos that had such a strong appeal on the first day. What's wrong? Biqigu asked in a somewhat confused manner. I think Biqigu is dozing off during class, are you okay? Ichinos spoke with some concern. It's okay, it's just that I didn't sleep well last night. Biqigu rubbed his sleepy eyes and said. What is it? It turns out you're not trying to bully me, that's really great. Is Biqigu also like this? I was a bit excited yesterday because I was living alone for the first time. I didn't expect such a luxurious single room. It's really great to be able to enroll in this school, said Shibata with a smile, yeah. Xiaobai exclaimed excitedly, moreover, the food at the Barrett Cafe is also very delicious, and having so much pocket money is really amazing. No. Why did you just start chatting in front of me like this? We are like friends. Baibo, classmate. Kanzaki said seriously, suddenly having such a large amount of money can easily lead people astray. It's better to cultivate a bad consumption mindset and exercise some restraint. I know. My name is Baibo, said Xiaobai weakly. Actually, it's like this, compared to Chigu's classmates. Seemingly aware of his embarrassment, Ichinos thoughtfully brought up the topic and said. Yesterday, it seemed like you left early for something. We discussed with our classmates and found that the monthly distribution of points should be related to daily behavior and grades. Simply put, it means doing things that suit students. It's better to save some points. Sure enough. Undoubtedly, Ichinos is really impressive. They clearly guessed about the points and how to get more points. That's right. Shibata-Chow smiled and said, so if you really feel tired, you can ask the teacher for leave to rest in the health room. What is it? Originally, it was to remind me not to doze off. That's what I'm saying. Biqigu turned to look at Xiaobai and Xiaoxue. I was really sorry just now. The little white blushed slightly and leaned forward, saying. Obviously, the eraser was intentionally lost by her just now, just to create a reason to poke him. After all, dropping the eraser should be a common occurrence, and it should be able to receive higher praise than directly poking people. No need, how can I say it? Thank you all. Biqigu nodded. It's really great that Xiaobai is not that kind of malicious woman. Chihiro, there's no need to apologize at all. At this moment, Xiaoxue said nonchalantly, this guy didn't even want to pick it up at first. He even gave me a special glance and wanted me to pick it up. She clearly knew and deliberately did not pick it up. Although it is a fact, but this guy is really going too far. I remember it was called G or something, so let's just call Xiao Haizi. Light Snow Ichinos said helplessly, Biqigu probably just glanced at you because he suspected it was your eraser. It's not a good thing to treat others with malice like this. That's right. Xiaobai quickly helped out, moreover, after picking it up more than 10 times, I didn't feel bored or complain about it. I think it's a very impressive thing. Haha, it's not that impressive anymore. Biqigu felt a bit awkward touching the back of his head. If it were an ordinary person, picking up erasers for others more than 10 times in a class would probably have slapped them a long time ago. That's right, that's right. I am someone you see as very powerful. Indeed. Ji Yeshua smiled awkwardly and turned her head, saying, I'm sorry, Biqigu, I misunderstood on my own just now. It's okay. Biki Valley doesn't matter. How could it happen? How do you feel that Xiaohizi is a bit out of place with this group? Compared to these, I still have a bottle of coffee I bought this morning. At this moment, the hero at the front table, Kamizaki, took out a cup of coffee from the drawer and handed it to him, saying, if you don't mind, take it and have a drink. It should help you get through lunch. It's really fake. How do you feel like the world is so friendly to him all at once? He probably won't be transitioning into a current recharge from now on. Haha, thank you, no need, Biqigu chuckled twice. I slept quite well last night, but I found humanities too boring and completely unnecessary. That's right. Shinchi nodded nonchalantly and said, then I'll keep it for now. Feel free to let me know if you need it. Hello. You are a bit too kind. Surprisingly, he deliberately kept it for him. It must be because he had some ulterior motives. No need. Biqigu awkwardly said. It's the first time being surrounded by so many people in the middle, and such friendly communication always feels a bit uncomfortable. By the way. At this moment, Shibata took over the topic and said, after school, there will be a club briefing. Do you want Biqigu to come and take a look together? Haha, no. Biqigu chuckled twice and before he could finish speaking, he heard Shinchi say, yes, you're the only one missing. Biqigu was slightly taken aback, what does this mean? Speaking of which, who is going to attend the club briefing? He is a purebred homecoming. Yeah. Ichinos nodded and smiled. Shibata went to the football department yesterday to inquire. Generally, the club briefing is held by the student union at 5 p.m. on the second day of school. So we discussed this morning and in the afternoon, let's go to the club briefing together, right? Hello. Surprisingly, someone even inquired about intelligence from various clubs in advance. You may be too excellent, right? Actually, Shibata just went to the football department to apply to join the club. Yeah, Biqigu, let's go together after school. By the way, do Biqigu students have any clubs they want to join? Yesterday's karaoke was not held by Chigu, shall we do it again today? Okay, I agree. Then I'll make an appointment for a private room in advance. Do you have anything to avoid, Biqigu? With a question from Ichinos, the classroom chattered incessantly, and a group of people gathered around him asking questions. No need. Biqigu forced out a smile and said, I have something else to do this afternoon. At most, I can only attend the club briefing. Well, that's really regrettable. Ichinos feels a bit regretful. Definitely next time. Biqigu awkwardly said. It's not that I really want to participate, but it seems like I heard the club explain that it will be organized by the student union just now. And it's written on the admission guide. Most school affairs are managed by the student union. As for karaoke, I really don't get used to it. Moreover, your performance is too fake. P.S. Has anyone seen it? Flowers, monthly tickets, reviews, and everything are all good. Please give some feedback. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th.